Radhe Krishna, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, Srimate Ramanujaya Namaha. Our Bhakti Rahasyam episode number 29 continues. Karmanaiva hi samsiddhim asthita janakadayah lokasangrahamevapi sampashyan kartu marhasi. Thus says Lord Shri Krishna in Karma Yoga, chapter 3 of Bhakti Yoga, where he means that great kings like Maharaja Janak have obtained perfection in life by doing their karmas, by doing their duties in a proper manner. Now, this is what we discussed in our episode 29 last week of Tirkolur Penpillai Rahasyam, where Tirkolur Penpillai is comparing herself with the great deeds done by Maharaja Janak. So, we saw that Maharaja Janak did his activities in a perfect manner, without expectations, and what he got in return, again which he did not expect, was bliss and glorification. That was covered in detail. The episode ended on the note that there are a lot of questions which can be thrown open around Karma Yoga, and we ended on the note that in this episode we will try to explore the principles of Karma Yoga as laid down by Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. So in this episode, and maybe one or two episodes after this, we will be exploring the principles of Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga and see how they are related. Now, throughout the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna talks about the concepts of karma, bhakti in many places. So, we are not going to follow any particular order. We are going to look into 3 or 4 stanzas which will help us to understand Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga and how to apply them in our day-to-day lives. So, before we move into the details around the Karma Yoga and the Bhagavad Gita, let us first see the situation or the circumstance in which the sermons of Gita were delivered by Lord Krishna to Arjuna. So, it is a scene in the battlefield where Arjuna is rattled by seeing his relatives in the opposite enemy camp. And when the time comes for Arjuna to lift his bow and start the fight, he develops a cold feet and feels that he should not be doing his duty. He should not be performing his karma of fighting in the battlefield, which was the need of the hour at that moment. Now, he was lucky or fortunate enough to have Lord Shri Krishna as his charioteer, who talks to him in great length about the importance of doing his karma and many other things through the Bhagavad Gita. So, towards the end of these sermons, Arjuna gets fired up. He understands the overall philosophy of life, karma, bhakti in true spirit, and he is motivated enough to carry out with his duties. So, the very first misconception about Bhagavad Gita, which exists for many people, is that reading the Bhagavad Gita would drive one to inaction, would lead one to lose interest in the day-to-day material life, and may also force one to retire into the forests and lead a life of inaction. So this very notion is wrong, and Lord Shri Krishna is exactly asking Arjuna to perform his duties rather than Arjuna not performing his duties and retiring. So this is very much a practical guide for all of us to do our duties perfectly in the form of Karma Yoga, to obtain knowledge about the Supreme Lord through Jnana Yoga, and to be immersed in the devotion and perform devotional service through Bhakti Yoga. So Bhagavad Gita is a combination of various approaches which Lord Shri Krishna has laid down. Of that, there is one approach also of getting into a meditative state, but that is one aspect. It's not that people will follow only that path. So multiple approaches are laid down. So whatever is appealing to one according to one's own nature, the person is free to follow that approach. So that flexibility exists. So we start this episode by destroying the common notion that Bhagavad Gita and following the principles and sermons will lead one to inaction. So, starting on the Karma Yoga front, the very common or the most popular verse which we hear is, do your duties, don't expect results. So what is this about? Like, is expecting about a result, or even setting a goal or setting an expectation, is it that bad? Is it prohibited? So what does Lord Krishna exactly mean by saying, do your duties, don't think about the results, or don't expect the results? So first let us see in which chapter does this verse fall. So this is coming as a part of Sankhya Yoga, chapter 2, and the verse number is 47, where the Lord says, Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phala hetur bhuhu ma te sangostva karmani. So this is the verse which says, you have the right to do your duty, but not to think about the results. So let us start exploring this verse in the practical context. So let's start with expectations. Now, expectations is something which is built into a person right from the moment when he or she is born. There are many places where people congratulate that, oh, it's a good thing that a doctor is born in your family, or an engineer or a lawyer is born in your family. So the fate of the child is decided right from the moment it comes out of its mother's womb. Then if the fate is decided right at that time, as the child grows, even the expectations are thrusted on the child. So when it goes to school, the pressure of academics, performance, comparison with peers, it starts building in. So get good grades, you will get a good bicycle or a wristwatch as reward. So what do you think? In this circumstance, most of the kids, because they are kids, the minds will revolve around bicycle or the invisible watch which is yet to come. So while doing or performing their activities on their academics or studies, inevitably the mind is sitting in the reward, the bicycle or chocolate or a wristwatch or whatever. So this way, the attitude of expecting something in return while discharging one's duty is strongly built into the kids right from the tender age. And we all know the popular notion that old habits die hard, so that practice continues. Then what happens? The child may clear its primary and secondary education, then get into the college for a specialized degree or a professional degree. There again, be it studies on medicines or law or engineering or accountancy, the list of expectations are endless. Then once the child obtains a particular degree, obtains a particular professional tag, parents start prizing them for marriage. And there the list is endless, which I don't want to go in detail discussing those. So the point here is the list of expectations goes on and on. So in this circumstance, what would happen is the child, if he or she is able to manage the expectations well, manage the pressure well, the habit of expecting something in return, it stays strongly in that child. Or if the child is unable to manage the expectations, he or she starts wilting in stress and pressure. And we know what it leads to, the harmful consequences of putting extra stress and pressure on kids and expecting more and more out of them. So in this way, the process of academic studies could become a liability or burden on the kids. Are they truly enjoying the entire process? Everyone knows the answer by their own experience. So rather than learning for the sake of learning, for the joy of learning, for understanding what exactly is required to be grasped, learning becomes more of an expectation oriented thing, where it exists only for obtaining something in return. Then once the child gets into, now he or she is no longer a child, the person gets into an organization, there we have another endless list of expectations, where it starts with competition, peer pressure, then your pay scales, designation, titles, promotions, and it goes on endlessly. So there again, a culture or an atmosphere is built in the particular organization sphere, and the persons who can match that particular culture or atmosphere, they are deemed to be fit. Others, they have to quit the race. So even working in a professional sphere becomes more of a monotonous money making activity rather than enjoying that work and deriving complete satisfaction out of it. So this particular attitude of expectations and placing the mind on the rewards is something which is spoken by Lord Krishna to be avoided. Focus the mind on the task, on the activity at hand, rather than focusing on the rewards or the results. Now, rewards or results are a thing of future. They belong to the future. They are not with us in the current moment. So what is there with us in the current moment is our resource called time, and which is very limited. So rather than thinking or using this time on creative ideas about how to perform the activity, or the task in hand, rather than worrying if the task performed will lead to a success or a failure, or will the results be good or bad, expected or unexpected. So what is the wise use of this limited resource called time? Is to invest our time in creatively managing the activity rather than thinking about the results which are actually not in our control. Now we all know for a fact that, and many would have practical experiences where we would have done all the steps leading to that particular goal perfectly to the core, yet when it comes to the results could be unexpected. We will be sitting and brooding, what went wrong? I can't find even a single step which I missed, yet this is the result. So rather than thinking about that particular result, so that comes towards the end, that is something which is out of our control. So what is the point in thinking about it right now and leading to an unproductive use of time? That is the point which this particular stanza tries to clarify. That is, do your activity, focus your mind on the work itself rather than bothering about the results which are out of our control. Results will follow. Results may be expected, results may be unexpected. It will follow. So there is another beautiful stanza which is a continuation of this, where more is spoken on attaching the mind to the success and the failure. So let's see that stanza. It is stanza 48 coming in chapter 2, which follows this particular stanza on do your work and don't focus on the results. So it says, Yogasthah kuru karmani sangam tyaktva dhananjaya siddhyat siddhyo samo bhutva samatvam yoga uchyate. So Krishna is saying, Arjuna, do your duties without attaching your mind to the results, to the success or the failure. If a person is able to achieve this state of mind, such a person is called to be a person of a balanced mind. Samatvam yoga uchyate. He has a balanced mind. That is, the mind does not waver according to the results, according to the success or the failure. Again, to take a very simple example in the organization context, I have put my full efforts in doing my particular activity, my key result areas. The expectations were set initially, and then having worked through, according to me, I have done my duties perfectly. But the time comes and I was expecting a promotion. Read the letter, they have just commented on the performance, but no promotion. Letter close, mind close. So this does happen with most of the people, right? So here this verse comes to the rescue, where instead of attaching the mind to the result of the activity, promotion, that is, the usual notion is, okay, if you get promoted, you are successful. If you don't get promoted, you are an utter failure. That is what each one of us thinks. Most of us thinks. There could be outliers. Most of us think that if we don't get that desired result, means we have failed in life. Whereas it is not the case. It would have taught us many other points for moving ahead. Again, it's also a commonly known fact that life doesn't stop in just 1 year of operation or 1 year of working. It's a marathon, it goes on, it's a process. So here, instead of attaching the mind on the success or the failure, am I able to carry on the next moment? Okay, I understand there will be some dejection and despair, but how quickly are we able to overcome that and then focus on the task at hand, that helps us to see or test whether we have a balanced mind. Now, if this was just one aspect, if one were to apply this principle in each and every area, each and every walk of life, and we are able to demonstrate a balanced mind where we are not bothered by the result of the activity, yet we are able to carry on our karmas, our duties without expecting anything. It's like the results will come, but those results should not be factored in at the present moment, and whatever result comes, the mind should be able to accept it uncomplainingly and go ahead. So this is the crux or the summary of verses 47 and 48 of the Bhagavad Gita, which is spoken of as the summary of Karma Yoga. Now, just one more example to expound this concept better is, again, it's a common example of a person trying to undergo a weight loss process. So all the plans are made, and it could be a combination of diet plans, workout plans, etc. So it starts. Okay, things are going well. When the measurement period of 1 week is over, or for some it may be 1 day or hours. So when the weighing scale, it's a dreaded instrument at that moment. When the person steps on the weighing scale, if it budges, it reduces, there is an excitement. Yes, I have succeeded in my weight loss mission and I'll continue this. But if it were to go on the opposite side, two approaches are possible. So again, the first approach could be despair, dejection, demotivation. All these efforts, I've done so much, I've sacrificed good food, I have invested my time in workouts, yet I'm not able to obtain any results. Let me stop this process. In that despair state, the stomach asks for more, and that leads to the opposite process of weight gain. The other approach would be, okay, this did not give result, so fine, why should I be affected by it? Even if I am reducing, why I should be so excited about it? Fine, let me continue, let me do better. Or if it's the opposite case, okay, let me not be demotivated, let me try to learn from my experience and go ahead, continue my karma. The weighing scale should not impact your attitude to this particular task, this particular karma of reducing weight. Similarly, a letter which may or may not announce your promotion should not affect your motivation to carry on the work which is ahead of you. Similarly, in student life, if that particular grade or marks or percentage is not achieved, that should not be a criteria for judging the success or the failure of that particular child. So if we are able to tune our minds to break that chain of expectation, that is the first point, or that is the first step in the process of Karma Yoga. Again, these things which were discussed, it may feel that, oh, it's very easy to say, but it is difficult to practice. Agreed. But unless one is made aware of and there is some effort in that area, that area would be kind of a dark secret, and one would never know what is the alternate path to expecting things in return. So this was the summary of Karma Yoga, which I have tried my best to explain. Now there could be another question which could come. Okay, fine, we'll start this process of trying to do the duties without expecting the results or thinking about the success or the failure. right, in the present moment. But while doing our duties in a routine manner, boredom kicks in. There is some level of monotony. So, has Krishna given any solution for that? It is very easy for him to say, okay, do your duties, don't bother about the results. But while doing the duties, if we are rattled, if this monotony breaks us, how do we actually get over that? Right? So this is also a question which could be in many minds, because not everyone gets to do different tasks in a short interval of time. One has to follow a routine. Even in life, there is a set routine which goes on, and while doing that routine, boredom is common. It is expected. So how to break that boredom? So there should be some way. Yes, Krishna has spoken about that particular aspect also. So that is also Karma Yoga only, but it is mixed with something called Bhakti. So that is a separate standalone topic to be covered, so which cannot be done in this short interval. So we will be seeing in the next week on how can we make Karma Yoga a bit more interesting, how can the routines be a bit more interesting, and can there be more joy and color in the life while doing our duties. So that will be the topic for our next week's discussion. So Tirukkolur Penpillai has triggered a chain of thoughts on how Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga can make a real difference and impact in our lives, can force us to think differently, and thus help us to find more peace and satisfaction with our life. So that's all from this episode. Stay devoted, stay blessed, try the principles of Karma Yoga in whatever activity you do, and stay tuned for our next episode. Radhe Krishna, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, Shrimate Ramanujaya Namaha.